Good morning.
Good morning.
Readers on. My name is Loriana Lee Knapp. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am an African American woman with my natural hair pulled up, wearing a dusty rose top, not quite Barbie pink. I am very short in stature, but very long on smiles, so hopefully that helps. Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming, we greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is watching on YouTube this morning. Don't hide that one. There we go. During our prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're joining us from. If you're in Oklahoma City, what neighborhood are you in? Or if elsewhere, what city are you in? A special welcome also to those who are visiting with us today. The prelude prepares us for worship.
Before Alan and I start the prelude, we want to share with you that we are playing an African rhythm. It's called Fanga, and it's a song of welcome. So if you feel like it and you want to clap or you want to get up, feel free to do that. If drumming makes you want to dance.
That was awesome. We light our chalice here in our building in Midtown, Oklahoma City, on land that was home to indigenous peoples, including the Apache, Caddo, and Wichita, on land that was taken from the Muskogee and Seminole and other removed and relocated peoples. We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Hi, I'm Lori Jervis, and my pronouns are she, hers, and I'm a Euro-American woman wearing a green top. It's a tradition here at First Unitarian in the summer months. Instead of formal services led by First Unitarian's own religious professionals, congregants get to hear from other members and get a sense of the talents and different perspectives that are right here within our own walls. This summer, we have been welcoming guests from different faith traditions, including Sikhism, the Baha'i faith, and Buddhism. We begin today's service with a poem by Kalidasa, a 5th century Indian poet. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is already a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation of the dawn. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, 188 in the Singing Living Tradition, the Gray Hymnal.
Good morning. I'm Paul Spicer. I'm in my 50s. I'm gray hair, thinning hair with a ponytail pulled back. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm of European ancestry. A reading adapted from Altered Traits by Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson. Speaking of the default mode network, which is paradoxically active when the mind is at rest, Goleman and Davidson observe, when scientists asked people during these periods of doing nothing what was going on in their minds, not surprisingly, it was not nothing. They typically reported that their minds were wandering. Most often, this mind wandering was focused on the self. How am I doing in this experiment? I wonder what they are learning about me. I need to reply to Joe's phone message. All reflecting mental activity focused on I and me. In short, our mind wanders mostly to something about ourselves. My thoughts, my emotions, my relationships, who liked my new Facebook post, all the minutiae of our life story. By framing every event in terms of how it impacts ourselves, the default mode makes each of us the center of the universe as we know it. Our default mode continually rescripts a movie where each of us stars, replaying particularly favorite or upsetting scenes over and over. With nothing much else to capture our attention, our mind wanders, very often to what's troubling us, a root cause of everyday angst. For this reason, when Harvard researchers asked thousands of people to report their mental focus and mood at random points throughout the day, their conclusion was that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. This system mulls over our life, especially the problems we face, the difficulties in our relationships, our worries and anxieties. Because the self ruminates on what's bothering us, we feel relieved when we can turn it off. One of the great appeals of high-risk sports seems to be that the danger of the sport demands a full focus. The same applies to flow. The self in its form as mind wandering becomes a distraction. Managing attention is also an essential ingredient of every variety of meditation. A basic instruction in most forms of meditation urges us to notice when the mind has wandered and return our focus to the chosen target. As a Sufi poem puts it, we shift from 1,000 thoughts to just one. Every Sunday we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work, our Change for Change partners. For the month of August, our Change for Change partner is Sisu Youth Services. The name Sisu, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, comes from a Finnish word which encompasses the qualities of perseverance and determination. Sisu's vision is to end homelessness and hopelessness among transition-age youth here in Oklahoma City. Sisu is a low-barrier, identity-affirming space here in Oklahoma City, which provides emergency shelter for youth experiencing homelessness, a 23-hour drop-in service, transitional living and rapid rehousing programs, and case management, including life skills and enrichment training. For those of you who are in the sanctuary with us today, in just a moment we'll be passing the offering plate. If you're not able to make a gift today, we invite you to write a note of encouragement to our Change for Change partner organization, and we'll share those messages with them as well. And if you're watching us online, please make your gift by sending a check to First Unitarian. Just write Change for Change on the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, 1UC.org.
And we're going to rock the offerings. in my lifetime. Blue skies alone, and welcome to these days. Singing that surrounds me, drowns me. A voice floats like a love song. Carried on the breeze, turning, trying. Thoughts of pain, joy, quickly running dry. I do believe I am trying to shine again. Darkness is the memory that never comes. It's you that cares the first to follow. Oh, what a this morning will last forever.
Oh, thank you. That was so good. Hi, it's Loriana again. Hey, glasses. They could be old, they could be new, they could be returning or replaced. They could be triggered by a sense of unpreparedness. They pop up just as you're drifting off to sleep. If they could make me royalty, I would be on a throne. If there were rewards given, I would have a medal every other day, at least. If I had a nickel for all of my, well, you guessed it, my anxious thoughts. A swirl of anxious thoughts went through my mind when Lori asked if I should like to reflect on, anxious thoughts. My mind raced. Am I able to write about this? Am I qualified? Will I make any sense in my rambles? Will I ramble on and on like I do? What if my throat gets dry? What if I drop my script? What if I forgot my script? Oh my God. What if I have nothing to say? What if I trip walking to the podium and fall onto another church member and we tumble to the floor, ass over tea kettle, and people scream or laugh so loudly that I faint from embarrassment, and then someone's gonna have to roll me off of that church member onto a gurney. Let's start again, please. Anxious thoughts. I think many of us aren't strangers to anxious thoughts. They seem to be composed of a bunch of what-ifs. And despite popular opinions, those what-ifs are truly based in reality. But it is the likelihood of those things happening that trips me up. Most of my anxieties are based on things that have a very, very small chance of happening, or at least in the script that runs in my head. If they did happen, they probably wouldn't be as bad as I think they would be. I mean, I've tripped walking up these stairs. I've bumped into people. I've mispronounced words. I have rambled on. I ramble. And I'm still here. I haven't fainted up till now. There are also those anxious thoughts about speaking one-on-one. Is my hair okay? Is my breath gross? Do I have too much perfume on? Do I have not enough perfume on? Or words tumbling out instead of speaking in a coherent sentence. This is my life, people. I have so many thoughts running through my head at a single time that when I am speaking, so many other thoughts keep popping up. Some of them are kind of important, so I don't want to ignore these thoughts. Like, maybe I'm like standing there talking to you and I'm nodding my head, but I'm also remembering that I forgot to defrost the meal from the night before, and am I gonna have anything for dinner tonight, and what am I gonna do? And oh my gosh, yes, I'm listening. So what does it feel like when I have anxious thoughts? I feel my stomach, it's not like butterflies. I feel my stomach actually tighten. I feel my breath get a little faster, a little more shallow. I feel a catch in my throat. My voice starts to tremble a little bit. I have a deer in headlights kind of, deer in headlights look, you know, that one? Am I still breathing? Maybe. So they, you know, I might look harried. I might look like I'm in a rush. I might look a bit absent-minded or distracted. I might actually look on the very edge of tears. Okay, y'all. I'm not a medical professional, okay? I'm not an expert at all. But I have researched my own anxious thoughts and my own body during this 51 years, I'm almost 51, of life. I noticed that my anxious thoughts could be anything from an errant thought popping up at the most inconvenient time, like, did I lock the door? As I stand up here right now. They could also be thoughts that go all the way to swirling in my mind, overwhelming any other thing that I need to do at that particular moment. So I can actually be a little overwhelmed by these thoughts, and they have led me to panic attacks, and that was a really scary time. My husband and dear friends convinced me to speak to someone about my anxious thoughts, which I was so grateful to do. What I found was my mind is an amazing thing. The amazing thing about this mind is it was just trying to take care of me. It wanted to alert me to all the possible outcomes so I could plan accordingly and keep from bad things happening. For this I am grateful, but it's really hard to shut it off. But luckily, my anxious thoughts no longer have to be a majority of my thoughts. There are so many tools in the toolbox available to us. Journaling, breath work, gardening, walking, being in nature and in the sun, art, music, playing games, counseling, and prescribed medications. One of my most favorite tools is breathing. When an ancient thought sounds in my mind and I start to really panic, I physically stop what I'm doing. I say, Loriana, you're okay. Take a breath. Loriana, you're okay. Breathe. And if I need to, I will hug myself for the third time, and I will say, Loriana, I love you, you're okay. Just breathe. By the end of that third thought, the issue might still be there, but I feel more calm, more centered. I learned later on that those 3 breaths stimulate the vagus nerve, which allows the body to get out of that panic mode, and my mind also begins to calm as well. From that place, I can reassess, I can ask for help, I can answer a question, complete a task, or put it off till later. And if I'm being approached by someone asking me a question that sent me into that panic and I don't know what to do, I take those breaths and I say, no, thank you so much for thinking of me, but no. And I won't feign of embarrassment, and I won't cry, and I know that I'm okay.
It's Paul again. Please join me in the spirit of meditation. Take a comfortable seat with an upright posture and place your hands in your lap. Settle in with a few deep breaths as you become aware of your presence in this room, on your seat, on this earth. We begin with a poem by Jeff Foster to call our attention out of our thoughts and stories and back into the experience of living. It begins, what would happen if we removed the word anxious and just paid attention to these flickering sensations in the belly? What would happen if we took away the concept lonely and simply became fascinated with this heavy feeling in the heart area? What would happen if we deleted the labels sick or broken or bad and just got curious about the tightness in the throat, the pressure in the head, the ache in the shoulders? What would happen if we stopped looking for solutions and checked to see if there was actually a problem here? Let's come out of the exhausting storyline. It's not true. It was never true. Commit sacred awareness to a single living moment. Come closer to yourself now. Bring warmth to the tender places. Infuse sensation with the light of attention. It's never as bad as we think, and always, always more alive. Please attempt to stay with this awareness of the sensations in your body and the feeling of life itself for a few more moments before we return to the service.
I'm an overthinker, a long time overthinker. In fact, part of why I chose this topic for the service is so that I could think about thinking some more. But I'm trying to change this. By overthinking, I mean rumination, chewing and chewing on something, going over and over a problem again and again, and letting the mind venture into places it has no business going. As I have come to realize that rumination only leads to suffering, inevitably, for me, by leading to worry, I have spent some time considering what is behind this trait. In the academic world, the world where I have found myself, we are rewarded for our thinking. Cognition is valued over emotions or physicality or the spirit. Thinking is our bread and butter. That is fine, but it doesn't help much when one has a tendency to overthink. I believe the same is true for many of us UUs. We are certainly not known for our ecstatic and emotional displays of religious fervor, but we do love our science and reason. I overthink when I am anxious. Most likely, it's a coping strategy to shift away from that crummy feeling into my head to somewhere that seems a little better. Overthinking is an unconscious attempt to avoid unpleasant emotions. When I have an irresolvable problem, watch out. That is a prime time opportunity for overthinking. I just keep going over and over the thing because I cannot come to a satisfying resolution. Maybe if I just think about it some more, I can figure it out. And lastly, overthinking is a habit, like any other. I turn to overthinking because that is what I'm used to doing. I am on automatic. And it's a pretty insidious habit. Because if I was binging on donuts or sucking on a beer bottle, someone would likely notice. But I can overthink all day and all night long without hardly anyone noticing. Overthinking is a habit I sincerely want to break. Rumi speaks to this in a poem. Be empty of worrying. Think of who created thought. Why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? Move outside the tangle of fear thinking. Live in silence. Flow down and down in always widening rings of being. As Rumi suggests, we are imprisoned by our fears and worries. He does not suggest ruminating on them, but instead moving outside of them completely. According to Rumi, the door is already wide open. So how do we find the door? How do we go through that door? How does one live in a body that thinks and overthinks? First, let's acknowledge that thinking is important. Being unable to think is almost unimaginable, and we wouldn't want to be without it. That would not be a good idea. It is that out of control, hyperactive, and angst-provoking thinking that is the problem, not thinking itself. Thinking is not the enemy. So how can we be thinking beings without overthinking? For many of us, the answer lies in the body, as Loriana suggested. Can we feel our breath or notice bodily sensations? Sometimes we're so blocked that that's not even possible. But we are more than just thought. If we are feeling unpleasant emotions, can we let ourselves feel them rather than fleeing from them, which is, of course, what most of the time we want to do? If I try to run away, I often find myself turning to my head to make sense of things, to provide some relief, but I seldom find the answers there. A wise meditation teacher once said, "We don't have to believe our thoughts. We don't have to believe our thoughts." Sometimes we convince ourselves that if our heads are telling us something, well, then it must be true. But I think we all know that crazy stuff goes through our head all the time. And is all of that really true? And wherever we turn for solutions, we often find that there is not always an immediate or a perfect answer. And sometimes there is no good answer at all. Rather than grasp for answers that aren't there, we need to let go for a while. And that ain't easy. In the heart of the Buddha's teaching, Transforming Suffering into Peace, Joy, and Liberation, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "Worrying does not accomplish anything. Even if you worry 20 times more, it will not change the situation of the world. In fact, your anxiety will only make things worse. Even though things are not as we would like, we can still be content, knowing we are trying our best and will continue to do so. If we don't know how to breathe, smile, and live every moment of our life deeply, we will never be able to help anyone. I am happy in the present moment. I do not ask for anything else. I do not expect any additional happiness or conditions that will bring about more happiness. The most important practice is aimlessness, not running after things, not grasping." There is a lot in this deceptively simple passage. According to Thich Nhat Hanh, all of the conditions needed for happiness are already here. Worrying does not enhance our ability to help anyone or anything, but may actually make things worse. Rather than worrying more or grasping for more or different, we are told we really need to be here. Wherever here is, even if here is not exactly what we want it to be. And this is tough because, well, not all of us are sitting in a monastery somewhere, but because sometimes we find ourselves with really big problems. There are times where we are truly suffering, and we don't want to be here. We do want something else. We very understandably want to be free of our problems. But what would life be like without problems? Oliver Burkeman, in 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals, urges us to stop thinking we can solve all of our problems. Life is a series of problems to be solved. We can never be without them. He also reminds us that life is short. 4,000 weeks is how many weeks on average that someone who's lucky enough to get to be 80 gets. Some of us are already down to half those weeks, and some of us even fewer. But he is not conversely suggesting that we should try to cram everything we possibly can into those 4,000 weeks, nor that we spend our time frantically trying to figure out and live a grandiose life purpose. In fact, Burkeman tells us that on the great cosmic scale, what you do with your life doesn't matter all that much, which I will repeat, what you do with your life doesn't matter all that much. We are therefore off the hook in terms of trying to construct a perfect life, because ultimately we are a tiny, tiny speck in a vast cosmos. Well, that is humbling, and it is ultimately true. Still, what we do in our lives does matter, and undoubtedly will have impacts on the present as well as ripple effects into the future. So how can we learn how to live every moment of our life deeply, including this very moment, as suggested by Thich Nhat Hanh, without overthinking our lives or venturing into FOMO and, as Burkeman describes, trying to just cram everything in? How do we avoid the tangle of fear thinking? When we are fearful, we might want to instinctively hunker down in fear thinking. But Rumi tells us to instead flow down and down in always widening rings of being. Rather than contracting, we need to expand out and find that open door, as challenging as that is. Clearly, these are practices of a lifetime, but ones we can deploy anytime, even now, most likely imperfectly. We don't have to believe our thoughts. So now we have a song from Chris Morrison.
Since think too much in the order of service, which I'm going to do a part of that. I'm also going to add Steve's fracture. Let's see what that is. It's not sort of right. It isn't. And the right side has to labor through all the sleepless night. And that night my father came to me and held me to his chest. He said, there's not much more that you can do, so go on and get some rest. Maybe I think too much. 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 Flood and flow, flesh and steel alone, drying in the colors of the sun. Tomorrow's rain will wash the stains away, but something in my mind will always stay. Perhaps this final act was meant to clinch a lifetime's argument, but nothing comes from violence and nothing ever could. From all those born beneath an angry star, lest we forget how fragile we are. On and on the rain would fall like tears from the star, tears from the star. On and on the rain would sing, how fragile we are, how fragile we are.
Wow, okay. We extinguish this chalice flame, but not the light of love and community, which continues to burn in our hearts.
A Gaelic blessing. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the infinite peace to you. Well, you'll be getting out a little early, but we're not done yet because we have one more song that we'd like you to be part of.
So the postlude is a song again from the Yoruba language. It's called Aramile, and it's so easy because that's the only word. And you can sing that, okay? And the tune is real simple. It's Aramile, 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 oh ya ya. You can either say it or sing it. It is so simple, okay? Trust me. All right, you ready?
And now we're done.